The CDC under attack. This happened on Friday of last week in Atlanta. I'm sorry, the CDC headquarters in Atlanta. There was a shooting by 30-year-old Patrick Joseph White of Kennesaw, Georgia. He opened fire at the CDC headquarters, striking at least 4 buildings with dozens of rounds before being, I believe it was like 151 total shots were fired. That came out this morning.
We actually have video of what that sounded like for all the people who were
So
nearby.
this is actual footage from the CDC headquarters in Atlanta. 30-year-old Patrick Joseph White. They say he's an angry anti-vaxxer who was seeking retribution for lies told to him by the CDC about the COVID vaccine. Here's what it sounds like during the rampage last Friday. That sounds like traffic.
Yeah.
It always surprises me how calm people are when they're filming shootings. I'd be screaming, help! Help! Somebody's shooting! But these people are just like, oh, I'm going to film. First of all, they film like this. Are we fans of filming like this, or do we turn and film like this?
First of all, rotate the phone, but it is hard to have it
horizontal.
Horizontal when you're also taking cover.
Yeah.
So
that is true.
The screaming during an active shooting, not the most advisable thing, because then it kind of says, "Hey."
Oh, so
I'm
that's
right
why
here.
people don't scream. I get shot right away.
Shot first. So, and there's another, the rule of the internet. You know the rule. The cameraman never dies.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's something dangerous going on, start recording, you're going to make it. It's a rule of the internet. I don't make the rules. It just
That's like horror movies. They always kill the people that are having sex, or for some reason, the one black guy always ends up getting killed.
Yep.
Every Friday the 13th movie, Jason goes for the virgins that are having sex for the first time, and then for some reason, the African Americans. I have no idea.
So the rules of the story.
That's the rules of the story.
Well,
no virgins, no African Americans.
No, only them.
Oh, only that. Even worse, actually.
If you're the comic relief black guy who's having sex for the first time, double jeopardy applies, and you will actually survive the movie.
There was, now we're laughing, but this is a serious matter because there was a death. Don't laugh at the death.
Just, we start
What
making
is wrong
fun of it.
with you? No, 33-year-old DeKalb County police officer, a former Marine, and recent police academy graduate, 33-year-old David Rose passed away. Was this a horror movie? Because he would have gone if it was a horror movie. He was fatally shot while responding to the shooting. Unfortunately, David Rose survived by his pregnant wife. That's horrific because now their child is going to grow up without a father. And 2 other children also. So 3 children, 1 wife, and this man has died. Were there any other people injured in the shooting?
No, he never even made it into the building. It seems like he was just kind of outside the CDC headquarters shooting at their offices. So the officer responded was the only person he encountered, and then I believe he fled into a CVS.
Yes, they found him dead. He killed himself inside of a CVS across the street from the CDC headquarters. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has come out and spoke out against attacks, but now he's being attacked for the attacks. He condemned the attack, but faced criticism from CDC staff, unions, and former officials who say his anti-vaccine rhetoric helped foster a climate of hostility towards public healthcare workers. Here is the Secretary of, Secretary of Health and Human Services.
Doing nothing.
Robert.
Secretary of doing nothing. Go ahead.
You don't like RFK Jr. now. Is there anyone that you do like? Because you don't like Trump anymore. You think he's compromised. You don't like RFK anymore because of... For some reason, you don't like Cash, you don't like Pam Bondi, you don't like Dan Bongino. Is there anybody in the current administration that you are a fan of?
No, right now there's nobody.
Not a single one.
The heroes are dropping like flies.
How about Lidnick?
No, especially
Besant.
not Lutnick. No.
Nobody.
No.
All right.
RFK said, "We are deeply saddened by the tragic shooting at CDC's Atlanta campus that took the life of Officer David Rose. We stand with his wife and 3 children and the entire CDC family. We know how shaken our public health colleagues feel today. No one should face violence while working to protect the health of others. We are actively supporting CDC staff on the ground and across the agency. Public health workers show up every day with purpose, even in moments of grief and uncertainty." We honor their service, we stand with them, and we remain united in our mission to protect and improve the health of every American. Was that written by
Pause, that's how I was
ChatGPT
gonna
with the
say.
elongated hyphen?
It's called an M
What
dash.
a
is it called?
lazy,
M dash.
lazy.
Wow, so he's not even gonna go. That really is lazy to not
Yeah.
even go in and because everybody knows if you see
Exactly.
the elongated or what's it called M dash
M dash.
M dash hyphen.
So,
just go in and
yeah.
replace it with the shortened
Yeah,
one.
What a
as,
piece
as a
of
long,
shit.
As a long time M-dash user myself, long before
Come on,
ChatGPT
really?
What are
dropped.
you guys?
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's
M-dash
it is a
user.
perfectly legitimate piece
What's
of
the
punctuation.
purpose
I don't even know where
of
the
the
key
M
is on the
dash?
computer.
It's to switch ideas.
But it's also a more aggressive parenthetical.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're using bigger words
Okay,
that I don't understand
let
to
me
explain
explain.
something stupid
So you know
that I
how
don't
if you're writing a
understand.
sentence, but you need to insert like a self-contained idea or
Sure.
a reference, you use the parentheses.
Yeah.
Which is almost like you're whispering it to the side.
That's exactly how I
Yes.
read it every
Yeah,
time.
the M dash is more of like it's
Strong.
more dramatic.
Yeah.
It's more it's less of a whisper and more of a completely changing tracks. Insert this, but aggressively with emphasis.
Wait, so are
and
you
then
saying
back
this
into it.
wasn't written with?
I'm saying
No, certainly it was.
I'm the strong indicator is that it was.
Has anybody called that out yet? Like, I can't believe
No,
we just.
but the
That's the biggest scandal of all
ChatGPT
this.
uses a lot of M dashes. Though,
Now,
and this is just one, so it's hard to make a
For
concrete
most
statement.
people,
How's nobody
especially-
called this
especially on the
out?
sentence, a comma would have done. It would
Well,
have
the
done
comma
purpose.
always suffices for what the sem dash thing does, but how's nobody called this out? Yeah,
And
this
you don't
is,
want to
this
get
is
into
vile.
N dashes.
Huh? No, I don't want to get into M dashes. I want to talk
N
shit about
dashes are
RFK.
the worst.
Okay. Well,
No, it's real.
You mentioned ChatGPT, and I actually wanted to start digging into how the media is framing this shooting. They're saying that David Rose was White's father. I'm sorry, Rose was the officer. White is the shooter. White's father, Patrick Joseph White's father, identified him as the shooter and reported that he had become fixated on the COVID-19 vaccine, blaming it for his depression, suicidal thoughts, and physical illness. Neighbors also confirmed that White frequently voiced what they call anti-vaccine rhetoric. And I wanted to see, like, why would somebody be pissed off about the vaccine? After all, I mean, it's not like they forced it on everybody. It's not like they made you have a passport in order to go places. It's not like they made you have the vaccine in order to work. It's not like they lied to you about the efficacy of the vaccine or the side effects of the vaccine. Why would anybody be angry towards the CDC healthcare professionals or vaccine manufacturers after what we just went through with the COVID pandemic? So I actually went in and I asked ChatGPT, I goes, why ChatGPT? Why? Why was this guy so angry? And ChatGPT gave me a list of quotes and falsified information that the public was misled with by the government during the COVID pandemic. Number one, if you get vaccinated, you won't get COVID. That is what Joe Biden said in July of 2021, claiming vaccinated people couldn't get COVID. However, an outbreak in Provincetown, Massachusetts, right after that speech, showed that 74% of the people who got infected with COVID-19 were fully vaccinated. So despite President Joe Biden's claims at the time that not being able to get it when you're fully vaccinated, 74% of people in one town got it while vaccinated. In March of 2021, CDC Director Rochelle Walensky said vaccinated people do not carry the virus or get sick. However, later data showed vaccinated people could still get infected and pass it on to others, especially with the Delta and Omicron strains of the virus. They told us that the vaccine was 95% effective. Pfizer's clinical trials showed 95% relative risk reduction for infection during a short-term follow-up period. However, in absolute terms, the reduction in risk was actually less than 1% during the trial period. So it was actually, they told us 95% effective. It was actually 99% ineffective. They told us that the vaccine stops transmission. We know that that's not real. They also told us that there was no concern for myocarditis. However, by mid-2021, the CDC confirmed a link between the mRNA vaccines and myocarditis, mostly in young males after the second dose. So do any of you guys, I'm not just trying to justify the guy's actions by any means, but can you guys see why somebody might have some resentment, some anger towards these established figures who lied to us for so many years during the pandemic?
Absolutely. Think about what they did. Like, that's a crime against humanity. Like, they forced you to take something that they had no idea what it was going to do and had good reason to believe that it could hurt you. And they tried to financially disrupt your life. And, like, especially people with kids, like, it's stopping you from going to work, stopping you from going on transportation. So, you know, like, I think, like, this would be grounds for a class action lawsuit for everybody who got the thing. I mean, unfortunately, our government's already bankrupt as it is, but I'd be pissed, and I'd want to sue the government over it.
What are you more?
You can't, by the way. They put all.
Yeah,
the,
I know they did
put all the legal
with
measures.
the,
you're not-
in the 80s. The government you can't sue for a vaccine.
Can I answer that?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. The thing is, I taking it out on this guys, I don't think it's fair. I think whatever happened, because we're blaming people here. It's in all of us. All right. All of us were part of this charade. All right. Who stepped? Like nobody got in the way of them closing everything down.
Well, the pussification of mankind is the problem.
Like we used to fight revolutions over a 2% tax increase. All right. And nobody said nothing.
Well, Florida did stand their ground. We shut down shortly, but then Governor DeSantis said we have to reopen. I mean, look, I worked at a comedy club that shut down in March and opened back up in April because the owners were like, look, if we don't stay open, this business will close forever. And so the comics all performed for free, and people were coming out. They had more sellout shows during that time, during COVID, than they do now. Why? Because there was a demand for people to get out of the house. People were like, I need to do something. And there was never a liquor license revocation. I'm butchering that word.
Revocation.
Yeah, sure. There was no penalties, no fines for the business. The business said, hey, we got to operate. They were allowed to operate. The government wasn't happy about it, but they didn't shut them down. So there were states that stood up. Then you look at California, who were literally, they were arresting people for paddleboarding with the Coast Guard. They were filling the skate parks with sand so people couldn't go out and skateboard. There were two ways that this country handled COVID. There's the one side of the country that completely locked down, and there was the other side of the country that stood in defiance. Unfortunately, the other side were only two states, Texas and
But even the states that stood in
Florida.
defiance were not, this full on denying of the problem or saying, the virus is not that concerning. Don't get the vaccine. That didn't come out until much later. We were all locked down. Most of us either had to work from home or find new jobs in the state of Florida. My church, for example, had to meet in a rented Boca Black Box Theater. Rob, I believe
Yeah.
you've been there before. We had to do church services out of that venue for like a year and a half because the entire state was mandated, like any non-school events cannot rent a school. That's where our church meets, in the cafeteria of a school. So we had to find a new place, and it's not a good venue for a church at a black box comedy club. I don't.
Whenever
Is
you wanna
it
start going
even
to
a good venue for comedy? I don't
Whenever you want
know.
to start going to a better church and give me
Yeah.
a call. Hey, but that's the thing. Like, and you were allowed to be outside in crowded places if you were protesting the right side of things.
Yeah,
right?
and even in Florida, you had to wear masks going to grocery stores for a very long time. Schools were shut down for a long time. It wasn't until like 2-3 years ago that they even made an official declaration about the efficacy of the vaccine.
That's why I'm so disgusted with Trump, though, because not only did he enable all that, but he hasn't done a single thing to strip power away from the federal government, which is the number one thing that we need to do to have a chance of preserving the country that we want to have. Like, the more power the federal government has, the more screwed we are. Like, that's why they were able to do what they did.
Which
But
are-
he's
go
only
ahead.
adding to that right now.
What were you guys more upset by? The lockdown efforts during COVID-19, forcing you to stay in your home, forcing you to not be able to leave and go outside, or was it the actual vaccine requirements that bother you more? The vaccine passports, the vaccine requirements to be employed. Like, for me, at first I thought I was always angry about the lockdown, but now I look back and I go, I agree with you. I don't really care about the lockdown. What I care about is the way that they use the lockdowns to then force us into these mandated vaccines, or told me, hey, even though you work from home for a radio station you've never stepped foot inside of, that is in Pennsylvania, and you're in Florida, Cumulus, they made me try and get the vaccine. And I said, no. My wife, who worked for Florida cancer specialists, who don't even have an actual headquarters in the state of Florida. There's no actual physical office in the state. My wife never met one of her coworkers in person, never stepped foot inside of a workplace. None of those happened, and they forced her to try and take the vaccine as well, and she told them to shove it as well. So we went from a dual income home to no money coming in during the pandemic, and luckily I was able to pivot, and I ended up linking up with PBD. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. But I look back on that, and for the longest time, I thought the lockdowns are what bothered me, but it was actually the vaccine. The way they did the rollout of the vaccine, the way they forced you to the vaccine, and then the way there were repercussions for people that didn't take the vaccine. So for you at home watching, let's run a poll if we can. We'll run a poll. What bothered you more about the COVID-19 pandemic? Was it the lockdowns or was it the vaccination?
Both of them, they have no rights to do it. Like the fact they said you can't go out and work, you can't go out and run your business because we're deeming it unsafe for you to go out. Like, who the hell are you to say that? And then you give a $1,500 payment when, if somebody's making $10,000 a month from their business that they're running, you tell them they can't do it, but here's $1,500. Or somebody telling people they don't have to pay rent because you're telling them they can't work, and then all the landlords that lost property because of that.
Yeah,
like,
people
who the hell is the
forget.
government to say that?
People forget how bad it was in certain states. In Michigan, for example, that was when Gretchen Whitmer was ruling the state with an iron fist. Told people, hey, if you own property in the Upper Peninsula, you can't go. Of course, her husband got to go on a boating trip up there, but nobody else could. They were restricting the ability to buy seeds of people who wanted to grow their own food at home because the stores were shut down. Like, this was a full-on tyrannical push, and we are not seeing the long-term repercussions from that until, like, they're just starting now.
And
so which is
Trump's doing nothing
which
about
is worse,
it.
the vaccine or the lockdowns? They're two halves of the same thing. We're seeing the problems that kids are having. The generations that were forced to go remote learning and missed years of their education are just now starting to show the signs of the trauma that inflicted on them. The vaccines, again, everybody got the vaccine when they were forced to, or sometimes bribed with donuts and cheeseburgers, right in New York.
These fries are so delicious.
And now we're seeing the health effects of that. But back to the shooting, because I know we got to round this out here. The shooting is the other long-term effect of this, because it is the consequence of complete erosion of institutional credibility. The CDC, that used to be a respected institution that was, tasked with keeping people healthy and preventing diseases, is now seen as the enemy who is responsible for all of this. So obviously this doesn't justify what the guy did. It's horrible. He took the life of a police officer who didn't even work for the CDC. So the Officer David Rose was a hero and should be remembered as such, and this guy should rest in piss for taking his life. But this is the consequence of what happens when the institutions we are told to trust completely turn around and stab us in the back for years. These things happen, and until they do something to address
they
it,
stabbed
it's
us in
going to
the
keep
back
happening.
with those vaccines.
Yeah.
Okay,
Question,
sorry, go ahead.
What are the
we
odds,
have to wrap up.
Yeah, what are the odds that this was an MK Ultra type of op that helps them silence people who try to criticize the vaccine or say anything negative about it, because they're like, yeah, look, see, this is what happens when you spread misinformation about the vaccine. You get people going out and trying to shoot up government officials.
I think the op is going to come in the media on the back end. Like, it's entirely possible.
I think
they grabbed this guy and brainwashed him, whatever. But there's a clear enough justification for him to do this all on his own by just being a crazy, angry person, which is more often than not who does these things anyway.
Yep.
And now the psyop, the twisting, the narrative shifting will come in the cover-up and the media coverage of, this is a consequence of vaccine misinformation. Yeah, the misinformation is what Rob listed off.
Yeah,
all
well,
the
you're
stuff
already
they lied
seeing
about.
it with them attacking RFK and blaming him for his rhetoric against vaccines for being responsible for the shooting.
Yeah, I think some people in the government are very happy that this happened, to be honest.
So if you like this clip, click right here. And if you want to see more like it, click right here. Stay angry, Patriots.